Sixth pole is a boost for Toyota's home match against Honda opposition, and Button on the front row. Fisichella third. The rain had just started getting heavier, and a career best for Christian Klein, fourth in the Red Bull. Home hero Sato's BAR fifth. Coulthard was stupendous, first out and still sixth. Webber seventh. Villeneuve's tail-happy Sauber eighth. Barrichello ninth. Massa 10th. Carter Kane showed superb wet weather skills for his 11th best ever. Pitsonia 12th, he spun on the outlap. Dutchman Albers put on a great wet show for 13th. Dornbos 15th, but Schumacher was hosed down to 14th, along with the other winners of 16 of the last 17 races. Alonso, Raikkonen, Montoya back expected at the front, whilst Trulli and Montero spun off no time.
Let's join your commentators, Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Here come the lights. When they go out, we'll be racing at Suzuka. And it's go! Cracking start by Coulthard. Look at him coming through the middle. He's already in front of Sato. Fisichella is in front of Button. That's terrible news for Jenson Button. And Coulthard is having a go as well. Christian Klein is also in the mix. Two cars are off the racetrack. One of them, though, is the local hero Takuma Sato. The other is the Ferrari of Rubens Barrichello. That's terrible news for local hero Takuma Sato. But at the front, a poor getaway for Jenson Button. Has that scuppered his plans here for his first Grand Prix?
Be interesting to see if Coulthard made it around the outside of Button in turn one. I'd be surprised if he did. It's a long way round there. Sato with his hand out of the cockpit, but it did look to me as if he just ran wide. But maybe he had got a push somewhere in there, but Button is ahead of Coulthard. It's third and fourth for the Brits. Schumacher leads critically easily from Giancarlo Fisichella. There's Button, Coulthard, Klein, and then Webber, Villeneuve, Michael Schumacher, Carter Kane for Jordan, Alonso up to P10. Alonso P10?
Michael Schumacher, did you see that pass he put there on Jacques Villeneuve? There he is, Michael Schumacher. There is Villeneuve. A lot of action here. We're looking at the leaders, which is a shame because there's all manner of stuff going on behind, and we should certainly watch the chicane. That's a Barrichello with a puncture, that looks like it, to the left rear tyre. But Alonso has gone from 16th on the grid up to 10th place. Someone's off there, one of the Red Bull cars.
Klein. But he manages to get back on this now instead of gravel there. And look at Alonso, he's just flying through the pack. I think he's up to about 7th already. And a McLaren, Kimi Raikkonen, straight across the chicane. There's a route back on. But look at them, they're streaming past him. Bad mistake there. And there's a car heavily in the barrier on the left-hand side. It's the McLaren, it must be Montoya. Montoya off the road, 2 wheels missing, look. And a big shunt, he'll be okay. Surely the safety car will have to be out there to recover that. It's in a critical position in terms of the exit of the triangle chicane. Safety car is standing by. It must be deployed, surely. And that will help also those coming through from the back, although one of them from the back is heavily in the hedge.
Well, this changes everything. It changes everything from the Constructors' Championship point of view, because one of the McLarens is definitely not going to score any points here this afternoon. But also it means, as Martin said, with the safety car standing by but not yet deployed, if they put the safety car out, that will really help Alonso and Raikkonen. It's been deployed now. That's great news also for Rubens Barrichello here, who has come down having a puncture. He makes a pit stop. Looks like other mechanics are ready. McLaren and BAR as well, ready for their drivers.
So many mistakes on the first lap. We've seen exemplary driving this year, brilliant driving by this field of world-class Grand Prix drivers. But I think a lot of these incidents, James, were all about cold tyres and very low pressures after that slow warm-up lap.
Well, let's have a look from the start line what happened to Takuma Sato involved in an incident. This is the view from the back, though. Look at the progress of Alonso and Raikkonen there.
Yes, the Minardi just basically didn't move. Alonso steaming through. He's already up to 8th from a 16th grid slot. And Ralf Schumacher leading behind. And this then is Takuma Sato in the first one. He ran wide himself as he was busy collecting it up. Rubens Barrichello, and here Montoya at the end of the first lap. He'd put himself on the outside of Villeneuve there. Maybe Villeneuve just didn't know, frankly. Lots of drama on that first lap. And Louise, amazingly, has already found Juan Pablo Montoya.
Juan Pablo, that was short and not very sweet.
No, it's pretty sad, you know. 3 cars in front of me missed the chicane. I think it was Villeneuve came out in front of me, really slow, and I went to pass him around the outside, and he just pushed me off the circuit.
So it just squeezed you off, basically?
Yeah, just, you know, he missed the chicane, come out really slow, blocked me right, so I went left. And he just ran wide into, you know, he went into the wide line and I ran out road.
Ralf Schumacher slows them all down. The safety car will be making his way towards the pit entry now. He's got to try and judge this. This is the fastest part of the racecourse, the point at which the track crosses over, right underneath where they're going now. And now here he goes. Ralf Schumacher hits the gas. They're going to be, they cannot overtake each other until they cross the start-finish line. No one is allowed to pass in the chicane, but it looks to me like Ralph's done a very good restart here. Look at the gap already over Fisichella, but what about Alonso and Michael Schumacher? That's going to be absolutely critical. The battle for 7th place, because that Ferrari will struggle from the restart. And here we go. It's in fact Schumacher attacking Coulthard. Alonso was not close enough, and Schumacher dives down the inside. That's amazing. That really bucks the trend of what we've seen so far.
It's clearly past.
I beg your pardon, he's gone past. So Schumacher up into 6th place, and Alonso now has got to get past Christian Klien.
It was odd. Both Red Bulls seem to be slow to respond to that. I don't know if it's the drivers of the cars or what, but both Coulthard and Klien appeared to drop back a little bit. But Ralf timed it perfectly. Fisichella just about kept him honest, though. Button 4/10 behind at the first sector point. Coulthard 2.2 down, though. So Coulthard, Webber, Klien, Michael Schumacher and Alonso in very, very close company. And we're on the back of that queue with Alonso. Not even full throttle into the hairpin there, as he's just wondering and finding out where the grip is.
Fantastic racing here at Suzuka. Alonso then chasing Klien at the front. Ralf Schumacher still leading. Remind you that he's in the updated Toyota. They've come here this weekend with a new specification car. It's a new chassis, completely new front suspension and aerodynamics, and it's got a lot more front-end grip. That's the reason they brought it. It also lasts longer through a Grand Prix. It's faster over a Grand Prix distance. That's the idea. Mike Gascoigne and his team out in Cologne have worked very, very hard on this car. They're doing a car every two-thirds of a year. Here comes Alonso having a go at Klien around the outside into chicane. No prisoners taken there. He'll have to give the place back to Klien there because he cut the chicane. But Klien takes it back. Well, he will take it back down the straight.
Yeah, Alonso, Klien did the only thing he could, and that's stay to the right-hand side. Now Alonso's going to have him back down the pit straight. And so you can actually say he had a slight advantage by coming from up high there, but he did all the right things, gave the place back and then snatched it straight back again and put himself into play with Michael Schumacher. Fight from midway on in this Grand Prix between the usual suspects and the boys at the front of the field who got the break yesterday and got the jobs done with the difficult conditions. And that...
Webber, I think, is it? Or Pitsonia?
I thought it was Pitsonia,
yeah,
isn't
Pitsonia.
it? Second Degner. Pitsonia off, and he's going to have to get that in reverse if he wants it out there. And look, Alonso then with a problem, and just fell back from 130R. I was surprised how much Michael pulled away from him, but then down the pit straight, didn't accelerate at all.
That is the Toyota of Jarno Trulli, who started from the back of the grid, having set no time in qualifying. Looks like he's hit someone. Look at the right side of the bodywork, Martin.
Yeah.
At the chicane.
Yeah, big contact by the looks of it. Don't know what's going on with this lot today. They just look like they're not making any allowances for the track conditions and the lack of grip that they're bound to have out there.
Yeah, well, he was certainly in front of Barrichello. It would be around Dornbos and Sato, I believe. But anyway, we haven't got the safety car. Safety car has been stood down.
Alonso, I think Alonso re-let Klien past. I think they had an email onto the pit wall from Charlie Whiting, the race director, to say, hey, you know, you've got to let him go fully ahead. You can't just let him sneak past and re-nail him back again. So now he's having another go at the inside. Alonso does not have a problem. I was right first time around. He was. I think that there is a communication system there, and now Raikkonen is right up behind him. So I think they've been told, hey, that wasn't quite the way it should be. You've got an unfair advantage there. You've got to let him back through.
It was Sato having another incident then, look, locking his brakes, driving a Honda, driving into the side of a Toyota. In this case, it's the two second string, if you want to call it, in this Grand Prix anyway, drivers, Trulli and Sato. At the front, we've got Toyota leading from Renault and Fisichella and Button in the second Honda at the front. But I'm interested because it looked to me that that's where the yellow flags were, Martin, for the Trulli incident. And that's where Klien repassed Alonso. You're not allowed to overtake on the yellow flags.
Well, I think they've got iron girders on the front suspension of Takuma Sato's car. I cannot believe his front wheel didn't fall off at that. It had 2 or 3 bites at the side of that Toyota, didn't it? And he's already had a whack on the right-hand front corner from the Ferrari. Ted's got more news.
Yeah, I'm down at Renault. Unbelievably, it was some miscommunication, a mix-up between the FIA and Renault. The FIA radioed the Renault pit wall, said, I'm sorry, Alonso's got to let clean past. They said he's already done it. He said, no, let him past. So Alonso let clean past. Then the FIA come on the radio again and say, we've changed our mind.
Well, he's just got past him again, Ted. So I think that's the 3rd time he's passed him today, at least. But this time, hopefully, it's for keeps.
Oh, that'll cause a bit of bruising after the race then if there's been a miscommunication there. But anyway, job done now, and he's on his way again. So Alonso up to 7th again, but they're now 4.5 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. But Alonso's got such a car underneath him, he'll just eat into that straight away.
It's a straight fight between these two, and I wouldn't rule either of them out for winning this Grand Prix. But at the moment, you'd have to say the pace of Ralf Schumacher is scintillating. Fastest man on the racetrack at the moment, his last lap, a 1:33.255. There is nothing wrong with this new specification Toyota. In Ralph's hands, it's all working beautifully, and he's 3 seconds clear of the Renault of Giancarlo Fisichella.
Yeah, but this is the bad news, isn't it? Look, if that's the only fuel he's got in the car, Trulli's already out of the race, so it is for Ralf. They're expecting. He's coming in on lap 13, despite 5 laps under the safety car, so we're not seeing a true performance. Fisichella is the true leader of this race, and Button is just 2.2 seconds behind him. You can discount, I think, now Ralf from that in terms of the pace. That's very early, isn't it, with the 5 or 6 safety car laps thrown in for good measure.
I'm absolutely amazed by that. That's incredible. Certainly everybody in the paddock was thinking Ralf would come in around about 15 or 16. He hasn't even made it that far, and as you say, we had 5 or 6 laps under the safety car, so clearly Ralf Schumacher running on fumes in qualifying. There's Kimi Raikkonen attacking Christian Klien at the bottom of the screens. There's Jacques Villeneuve going through, so Ralf has dropped in front of Jacques Villeneuve. That means Ralf is in 9th place, and Raikkonen is up into the points. But here comes Alonso down to turn 1. Schumacher goes defensive. Alonso can't go around the outside there. This is a fantastic scrap here between the old champion and the new.
We've been waiting all year, haven't we? One way and another, with engine changes, 10-place drops, whatever, people being cautious and for the World Championship stakes, and now all the gloves are off. They're going for it full time. Michael Schumacher placing his Ferrari on all the right parts of the racetrack, but they're now lapping slower than the leaders. They're 16 seconds adrift of Fisichella now, who's 4 seconds ahead of Button in 2nd place. Coulthard's going well, lapping at the same pace as the leaders in P3. The Red Bull is hooked up for the Grand Prix.
Pit stops are coming around. Coulthard 3rd, Webber 4th for Williams. We haven't seen him all afternoon, but he's having a terrifically strong run as well.
What about that? Renault pitting quite early on. I thought they'd be into the lap 20s, and that's going to put a smile on the face of McLaren, because I'm sure Raikkonen is fueled quite a bit longer than that. We believe it's for Fisichella, the current leader, and then Michael goes to the inside, tries to block the line into 130.
Oh my word!
And Alonso having none of it, straight around the outside, and now Raikkonen has got a chance too. Michael had nothing, he had to go defensive, and Alonso just steamed on the racing line round the total bravery, total confidence in the driver you're going around the outside of, to know he's not going to run your track. That would be the mother and father of all shunts if you connected in the middle of that corner.
180 miles an hour as Fisichella comes out of the pits. 180 miles an hour around the outside of the 130R corner. I've never seen anything like it. Enormous bravery by Alonso, brilliant driving by Michael Schumacher, not for both of them to have an enormous aeroplane accident, and now Raikkonen has got to get past as well, because he can see the Renault scampering away. Here it is, just look at this, and disbelief.
Yeah, Michael then is crimped up on the inside, nothing he can do. Alonso just nails and things. I know he'll have to lift. He's got to lift, therefore I'm going to stay full throttle, and brilliant bravery and confidence there. But I think you can do that with Michael Schumacher. Well, we've got a Brit 1-2 at the moment. Button from Coulthard. Neither of them have stopped. I think effectively Fisichella is ahead of them. Button pits then on lap 23. Coulthard leads for Red Bull, and Raikkonen cannot clear the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher. Ted?
Tell you what, Jensen's got half a chance with this. He's just done 2 very good laps in the 33.0. That was quicker than Fisichella. The gap was 1.8. Oh, it's a lot of fuel, though, going in there. What is that? 11.7. Wow. Oh, well, he might not be so close to Fisichella with that as he would have been otherwise.
Alonso pitted too then. But I think they were, it looked to me like the fuel rig didn't go on that easily in the beginning. When we just cut to that picture, Ted, I'm not sure that was all fuel. It just looked like the rig was struggling a bit to get on there. Coulthard from Webber then at the moment. Alonso pitted, so it's Michael Schumacher third. And that is Klein exiting the pits. He was P9. Coulthard pits from the lead. Webber pits also from P2. So now this is Michael leads the race then from Kimi Raikkonen, and McLaren must get past the Ferrari to take advantage of their heavier fuel load than the Renaults, otherwise they're losing what they carried into this Grand Prix. This is a pivotal part, and look at that, Webber out in front of Coulthard. Bad news there for Red Bull. Webber's had a quicker pit stop as Villeneuve steams up behind them.
That's pretty important for David Coulthard and Mark Webber, because Villeneuve has got further to go in this Grand Prix, so they've managed to get out in front of him. Villeneuve, we believe, carrying the most fuel of anybody into qualifying. Well, the man who qualified in 14th place, Michael Schumacher, leads this Grand Prix at the moment. Kimi Raikkonen, who qualified 17th yesterday, is in 2nd place. What an amazing Grand Prix this is already.
Well, what we know is they knew it was going to rain, these people that were later on in the qualifying session, so they would have fueled accordingly. The weather forecasts were amazingly accurate yesterday, and Ted has further news for us.
Absolutely, Martin, and trouble with Jenson Button's car. You were quite right, it was a long stop, not because of fuel, because the fuel filler cap isn't working. It's broken down. They had to get out a screwdriver and yank it open, and they team telling me that they'll probably have to do the same thing at his next stop. So, well, that might be crucial when it comes to the fight with Fisichella.
Well, he lost 4 seconds as a result of that in that pit stop, and if it happens again, it'll be another 4 probably later on, so that's really hurting Jenson Button's chances of a podium here today, particularly with these guys on this form. Raikkonen on the right, Schumacher on the left. Raikkonen dives down the inside. There's no way through here. This is a single track road all the way up the hill.
Yeah, the problem with turn 1 here is it's just an approach zone to turn 2, so you just steam in there really, virtually no braking. On a qualifying lap, I've seen Schumacher go through there absolutely full throttle in top gear, which blew my mind to watch it. But Raikkonen, he'll never get through there. But once again, he's another driver. He's got to stay close in Spoon to give himself a chance, because Michael's struggling in the second half of the straight, and he's hitting the ground too hard through 130R. But Raikkonen just can't get close enough to do anything about it. Massa pits. He's, where was he? 10th at the moment. Good scrap going on between Coulthard and the other Sauber, Villeneuve. They were 0.1 apart as they crossed the start-finish line, and Villeneuve yet to stop with a nice light car and fully temperatured and pressured up on the tyres. Schumacher just did his fastest lap of the race, a 32.7. Raikkonen did a 32.8, interestingly, and they're just 7 seconds ahead of Fisichella, who has already pitted, and the Ferrari mechanics we hear are out in the pit lane.
Well, it's a pretty important time in the Grand Prix from Kimi Raikkonen's point of view. He wants a bit of clear air now without Michael Schumacher in front of him, because he wants to be able to rejoin in front of Webber, Coulthard, Villeneuve and Alonso, who are about 20 seconds behind him at the moment. He needs to make a few more seconds before making his own pit stop, and he'll leapfrog all of those guys when he makes his first stop. Michael Schumacher dives in the pits, so does Raikkonen. That's amazing. This is as far as he can go on the fuel. He didn't really want that. It's a pit stop race now between the two teams.
Surely they'll short fill the McLaren to ensure they're out. It's a tricky pit lane, down quite a steep hill. You go across a rain gully, and you have to be so careful not to overshoot. They've just got to short fill that McLaren and get him going again. Otherwise, he's away first, and surely he's going to beat Mikey. Now he's got a long way to go. Michael's got away first, and well, that is critical for the race. And look, Webber goes through, Coulthard doesn't, so Coulthard's lost another 2 places there, but Alonso was way back there as well, wasn't he? So these two have cleared Alonso.
They have, and I think Alonso passed Villeneuve into turn 1 just as those cars emerged from the pit lane. So that's Alonso up into 7th place then, and making good progress, but Raikkonen, crucially, is in front of him on the racetrack. He was behind He was behind him early on. Michael Schumacher was passed by Raikkonen, but now Alonso has been jumped by both of them by staying out longer. That's the top 8 here. What a great Grand Prix. Through one of the most thrilling Grand Prix of the 2005 World Championship. Any one of a number of drivers could still win this Grand Prix. It's certainly all been happening here. Sato off the start line colliding with Rubens Barrichello, but a much bigger shunt on the first lap involving Jacques Villeneuve, who appeared to push Juan Montoya certainly quite wide. Montoya lost grip and hit the wall. That brought out a safety car. In the early stages we had Ralf Schumacher leading from Fisichella and Jenson Button third. Fisichella was able to jump Ralf Schumacher in the pit stops. He now leads this Grand Prix. Ralf Schumacher stayed ahead of Jenson Button. Mark Webber's having a strong afternoon in 4th place for Williams, but from the back of the grid, Michael Schumacher, Kimi Raikkonen and Fernando Alonso have been mesmerising. At the moment, Schumacher is the front driver of these trio. They're 5th, 6th and 7th. But earlier on, Martin, we saw probably one of the best overtaking manoeuvres I've ever seen, certainly one of the bravest, where Alonso went round the outside of Michael Schumacher into the 180-mile-an-hour, 130R corner, and is absolutely scintillating. How much time is Alonso losing here to Kimi Raikkonen? I can tell you, Raikkonen's last lap of 33.3, Alonso's a 34.9. He is losing 1.6 seconds a lap to Raikkonen while he's stuck behind Schumacher.
2 mistakes in 3 corners for Fernando Alonso. He's getting a bit ragged and frustrated there now, and he'll be somewhat confused, I think, that of course he pitted early, they ran longer, but I think he'll be very surprised when he saw them come out of the pit lane quite a long way in front of him, where those positions got swapped around. But this is where he's faster than Michael. Michael's got obviously carrying more wing or something, and then he's in the dirty, turbulent air at 180 odd miles an hour. Now he's got to slip up the inside.
Go on,
surely.
Go on!
Oh, and Michael has gone very deep again. Can Fernando get a cleaner run? Because Michael's got to turn harder right now as they come onto the pit straight. Fernando's got a much better chance this time of getting down, doing a Raikkonen, getting down the outside, and he's just got to storm in, don't lift off the throttle, sweep in and steal the racing line. Schumacher had no defence there. He got out of line at the top of the hill, therefore you turn harder right into the pit straight, you scrub some speed off, and you get mullered down the outside.
Here's another look. But really, the pass was made, or it was set up at the chicane. That's where it was executed, but it was set up at the chicane. And they loved that. Oh, I've got a pit fire. Down in Minardi, Christian Albers. We've got fuel on the floor, on fire, but the marshals very quickly onto it, the Minardi mechanics as well. And lots of instructions going on. It looks like they're saying it's not all over yet. Let's try and get him back into this car. Chief mechanic there, dashing off back into the garage. Looks like they're going to try and get that car back out onto the racetrack again. Absolutely unbelievable. Martin, this is an absolute scream of a Grand Prix. Who's your money on?
Well, at the moment, Fisichella, I think, it depends how long it takes Raikkonen and Alonso. Look at Alonso just cruising straight up to the back of the pack. It depends how long they're stuck behind Button and Webber, because Fisichella's lead was 17 seconds. He's in the 132s. The pair behind him are in the 133s and 34s. And Alonso pits. That's a smart move, I think, because he was about to lose a bundle of time. Whether he's out of fuel or whether that's a tactical move, I don't know. But if there's good space... Oh, there goes Michael Schumacher. He's got to pass him again, surely, after this stop. Amazing.
Well, he's pretty much on target. Maybe they've brought him in slightly early so he doesn't lose any time. Certainly, Raikkonen's strategy is being a little bit compromised by being tucked up behind Button and Webber, whereas Alonso's lost no time really there, so he will have to push on now. If Raikkonen can get clear of these two and get some clear air, then he'll be in clover. But, well, last time round, Raikkonen pitted 4 laps after Alonso, but he took on a little bit more fuel, so he'll probably come in, I would think, 5 or 6 laps from now, Martin.
Well, I wonder if McLaren will cover that Renault pit stop by pitting Raikkonen, because he's clearly losing time, isn't he? And he doesn't look in danger of passing this pair in a hurry. So McLaren might be feverishly working out, do we have to cover off that Renault stop?
Well, Jarno, what are you going to say about that one?
I think we have a dangerous person on the track. It's very clear from a few years. It's just causing a lot of problem, and we have to stop it. The federation has to take action.
Do you feel he's just trying to put on an impressive display in front of his home crowd?
He tried to do a maneuver which absolutely was impossible, so I don't know what he's thinking when he's driving.
You going to go and talk to him about this?
There's no point, because he keeps doing it. So it means that he won't learn, and he won't be able to understand it.
Well, they're talking about Takuma Sato. He drove into the side of Jarno Trulli at the chicane earlier on in the Grand Prix, taking Trulli out of the race. And here you can see Fisichella, the leader, rejoining behind Kimi Räikkönen. So Fisichella slots back in 4th place, but Räikkönen has to stop again, and so do the 2 cars in front of him. There you can see the schematic. And, well, as you said, Martin, this certainly looks good for Fisichella, unless he has some sort of problem now, because Räikkönen has just not had the opportunity to make up the time.
No, Alba's amazing. He's back out in that Minardi that we saw on fire. He's 17, 3 retirements. Pizzonia spun off. Trulli had that incident with Sato. We only caught a brief glimpse of it, but Sato was steaming up the inside of him. And obviously Trulli felt that was another banzai move that was unreasonable. And Montoya running around the outside at the end of the first lap. It was the first retirement of the day, when he felt Villeneuve didn't leave him any space.
I just had a word with Richard Baxter, the man on the who actually puts the fuel hose onto the car. Same man who put the fuel hose onto the car at Monza a couple of years ago when the team had a fire with Gianmaria Bruni, and it was a very similar problem that caused it. Basically, there was fuel flowing from the nozzle before it was actually connected to the car, obviously something which is not supposed to happen. That fuel stripped down onto the exhaust and caused the fire. The good news is, though, that nobody hurt down here. The car's been cleaned up and Albers is back out on track.
The BAR Honda team come out, ready for a pit stop. I imagine that's probably for Jenson Button. He pitted first time round on lap 22. He had a sticking fuel nozzle, sticking fuel valve, I should say, and the team expected to have the same problem again. So we'll have to watch this pit stop quite closely. Jenson doesn't want to lose too much time, otherwise he will lose the place to Mark Webber.
It was the flap, wasn't it? Didn't Ted say? I thought when they put the speed limiter on, the flap automatically comes up, and I got the impression that that didn't happen on. They had to sort of jemmy it open when he got in to the pit lane. Jenson goes right into the pit lane. We'll keep an eye on it. We're on board with him. Let's hope we stay that way, although we won't see the fuel flap from there. Yeah, it's up. It's up. No problem at all. And Williams have covered that off as well with a Webber pit stop. So it's a straight fight between the 2 teams then. The 2 teams that have been fighting hard over Jenson Button services for the last 2 years, basically. And Webber's away fastest. Webber's away first, and he's going to take it. And he is. He's going to take it. So that's amazing. Excellent pit work there from Williams. That's the 2nd car they've cleared for him today. They cleared Coulthard's Red Bull earlier on, and Jenson will be gutted to see that.
Down at Williams, big high fives as Michael Schumacher pits. High fives and smiles at Williams, beating Jenson Button out of the pits, considering what's happened all this year. But also on Alonso, Martin, that was a planned stop for Fernando Alonso. He had to come in there, but it's worked out quite well with them, with Räikkönen, even though he's up against them now.
Some not a great deal of rubber on the inside of the front tyres of the Ferrari there. They run about 3 degrees of front camber. The top of the tyre leans in, so you tend to wear the inside of the tyre out, and certainly the Ferraris look like they're struggling on that at the moment.
Into the pits comes Ralf Schumacher. That's exactly what the McLaren team wanted to see, and David Coulthard as well. 3rd and 4th place men. Where will they rejoin?
I think it's looking like a P7 and P8 for those 2 later on. But, well, I'd given the race to Fisichella, but he's just got to pick his speed up. He's going too slowly now, and Kimi obviously has been told, if you push hard, you can win this race, Kimi.
In he comes then. Inspecting the tyres, clearing the radiators. Well, he wants to get on with that, doesn't he? Pushing back out again. There's Fisichella. He takes the lead back again, and that is the margin. And that, with 8 laps to go, that's what Räikkönen has to close up now. Absolutely scintillating end to this amazing Japanese Grand Prix. Alonso wants to get on the podium as well. He's lining up Mark Webber. There's an awful lot still to play for here. And just to remind you, not that long ago, we were talking about Fisichella enjoying a 20-second lead over Kimi Räikkönen. Räikkönen stayed out longer on his strategy than Fisichella. As you say, Martin, Fisichella was a little bit off the pace having made that fuel stop for whatever reason. Maybe it's the car, maybe it's him, but now it's going to be an absolutely scintillating finish, and Ted Kravitz is standing by in the Renault garage.
Yeah, and they're nervously, frantically talking to Fisichella on the radio, his engineer Alan Permain, telling him to push as hard as he possibly can. They've given him some more engine revs to try and just keep him ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. Meantime, absolutely assured calm down here at the McLaren garage, but crucial for Renault, James, because Alonso cannot seem to pass Webber.
Well, we'll wait and see on that one, Ted, but let me remind you of the context of this battle, because the Constructors' Championship, the only thing left to play for in this World Championship, because obviously, as we know, Alonso has already wrapped up the driver's title. Well, Renault trail McLaren here by 2 points. So if Fisichella's leading this Grand Prix, that's 10 points. Raikkonen second, that's 8. Alonso is 4th, that is 5 points. But all of that could really change here if they can get past each other. If Raikkonen, who's now only 3 seconds behind Giancarlo Fisichella, can close up and pass. If Alonso, who's less than a second behind Mark Webber, can pick up an extra point here or there, it could make all the difference in the Constructors' Championship, particularly as Montoya will score nothing. He's out of the race. Look at this, though. Alonso's going for it down the inside, on the grass, 2 wheels. Fernando Alonso, what a brilliant move once again. Another fantastic pass.
Stunning. Alonso is totally fearless today. He got a better run out of the chicane, picked up the slipstream. Webber thought he'd covered him off, so Alonso took a little bit of grass to give himself the extra space he needed. He's up to P3, but Fisichella can't respond. He's 6/10 slower in the first sector on this current lap than Raikkonen. Raikkonen is just reeling him in. Fisichella seems like he mentally had this, was standing on the top step of the podium and now just cannot respond. But look at this from Fernando Alonso. Incredible bravery. Reminded me of when Michael Schumacher put him on the grass going down to Stowe, and he just hung on in there, but didn't make the pass on that occasion. But did he get through this time? It's been a great drive from Webber too, but look, there is Fisichella, and now there is the flying Raikkonen, and as soon as Fisichella starts to see him in his mirrors, then he's under extra pressure. The McLaren is mighty. Look at the slipstream he's getting down there. The Renault hitting the ground hard. And what are you doing? What are you going so defensive for? That wasn't necessary at all. And there was Fisichella defending some fresh air.
It was interesting though, did you see Fisichella on the left? His throttle was flat through 130R corner. Raikkonen lifted, but he's coming down the inside now. He's lining him up, trying to pass down the outside into the first corner. Well, he's just letting him know he's there. I think Fisichella's well aware of that. Very interesting to compare how they're working the throttle and the brake, these two. Fisichella lifting off earlier than Raikkonen into turn 3. You see, up the sequence of up the hill. Only one line through here, no chance of passing through here. But Raikkonen will be very keen to get as close as he can through the spoon curve, turns 13 and 14, in order to do what he did last time, get really good toe out of the straight and into 130R corner, the closing stage of this lap.
Fisichella mustn't pull that trick again. If he's got to take the better line through the chicane, otherwise Raikkonen's going to have him down into turn 1. But he obviously was expecting an attack, but clearly Raikkonen was way too far behind. And that's the concertina effect of a hairpin you're seeing there, as the driver in front is always going to be on the throttle a car length earlier, and with the amount of power these things have got, begins to pull away. Look at Raikkonen, he's just all over him like a rash. He's got so much more grip and balance and confidence. But this is the exit of Spoon again then, and Fisichella up the inside. He's now moved to the outside, the racing line, and Raikkonen is absolutely hauling him in. And again, he goes defensive when he doesn't need to. It puts him out of shape then for the exit then, as we saw earlier on. Has he got enough traction to keep the McLaren behind him? He's really left himself to be a sitting target now. He'll have to go defensive down the inside. He'll have to go tighter than that. Oh, and they nearly touched. Can Raikkonen sweep in? Yes, he can. Brilliant.
What a brilliant move! Side by side down the straight. Grand Prix racing at its absolute finest. Kimi Raikkonen sweeps through to take the lead of the Japanese Grand Prix. He started from 17th place. Let's enjoy this again.
There, and he moves to the right to force him to the left-hand side, but there's so much more grip there, and then it's Fisichella facing the tighter line into the corner. But again, he got it all wrong at the top chicane by just compromising his exit.
And one of the most dramatic Grand Prix in living memory comes to a close with Kimi Raikkonen, the winner! Absolutely sensational performance. In second place will be Giancarlo Fisichella. Raikkonen loves that. And in third place, Fernando Alonso.
In the land of the rising sun, it is Kimi Raikkonen who feels the warmest glow. Renault not happy with Fisichella, but they're back on top of the constructors. We will be back with Tony Jardine's analysis and the driver's view of comfortably the best Grand Prix of Button, fifth. That is 9 successive races that Jensen has scored. Coulthard, good season he's had at Red Bull, and then the Schumacher brothers 7th and our pole sitter Ralph 8th. Looking at the standings, of course, Alonso already the world champion. Michael Schumacher overtaking Montoya. Still plenty for those two to race, though, in China next weekend. And Fisichella 10 clear of Trulli now. Still very competitive down the bottom there. Let us have a word